All right, so
Not that I've
recording
ever
now.
forgotten to do that myself.
Yeah. Okay, so here we have TechWater. Here is the initial screen you'll see when you start it up. It's going to ask you for a customer name and then a ticket number. This information gets saved in the computer's registry, so if you ever work on that client's computer again, it will already know. We're going to go ahead and click Continue here. On the next screen, we have this is the main tools page here. On the left-hand side, we have a list of categories. So as I go through each of these categories, it's going to refresh this tools page here. On the bottom, we have a description for each tool that we're selecting. Some of them have a description that's a little too long to view in this box, so you can click this and it'll pop out a description box here. And then as we go through the tools, that'll update. On the right-hand side, you'll see that there is a queue. And a queue is a list of tools that we want to run in order. So I'm going to go ahead and clear this queue, and we can make a queue that we will run in this demo. So let's see here. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to run some tools that I know go pretty quick. So we can run DevMan View, get product keys. We can see what's installed on this computer, and I might see what starts on boot and see if there was any crashes recently. I might check my laptop's battery. I can see if there were any blue screens recently, and see here. I can run Disk Smart View to check if this hard drive has any issues with its smart stuff. We can clear the proxy settings and back up the registry, and I'll actually move this up to the top. So if you want to change the order of one of these tools, you can click and drag, and we can back up the registry first there. For malware removal, we can run, let's run hijack this, and we will run the Registry Investigator, so Ken can talk about that. That is the tool that we worked on in conjunction with Ken, and when we get to that, he'll go over that with you. And then let's clean something up here. I don't have anything in my recycle bin, so let's delete this Dropbox shortcut. So let's clean out the recycle bin. So now we have this list of tools, and let's say that this is something that we want to run on a regular basis. So maybe this is a malware removal queue. It's something that we run often. Instead of having to recreate this queue every time, what we can do is we can save it as a preset. So I can go save here, and I will I have one called demo preset. I'll overwrite that. And that just makes it so I can clear this queue, and then I can go to load, and I can load this demo preset, and it's right back in there. You'll notice that we have a bunch of other presets here, and these are just a list of, lists of tools that we have picked for you so you can easily get up and running and know what to do. And on our YouTube channel, we actually have an explanation of these tools and why we picked them. But let's go ahead and load the demo preset here. And I'm going to go ahead and click Run, and when I click Run, what's going to happen is it's going to run through each of the tools, download them if necessary, and then move on to the next one after it's done running. Let me just check the questions here before we get started with that. We do have a question here. Does TechPortal work with QuickBooks or other interfaces with ticketing applications? That's a good question. Yes, it does, and I'll get into the integrations when we get to TechPortal. And yes, this can be deployed remotely. I'll get into that as well. So let's go ahead and click Run here. So the first thing that it's going to do before it runs anything is it's going to create a system restore point. This just makes sure that the reason we do this is in case something gets messed up. Maybe it automatically removes something and you need to go back. It's just general good practice in all repair scenarios. So now that it's done that, it backed up the registry there really quick, and now it's running through each of the tools and downloading them if necessary, and then moving on to the next one. So you can see there it downloaded Win Crash Report. One thing that's worth noting is that my laptop is actually running Ubuntu, and I'm running this demo in VirtualBox. So when it detects hardware, it's going to detect VirtualBox hardware. So just as a preemptive, why is it doing this in the report? Yes, there is a timer that logs the amount of time spent on all the processes, and you'll see that in just a second. Yeah, I mean, it is very fast. I purposely did pick very fast tools, though, so I mean, don't expect everything to go that fast. I just didn't want to waste anybody's time during the demo running things like Hitman Pro that might take longer. Okay, so now you can see here this is a standard report for TechWaru. It's automatically uploading it right now, as you can see here, to TechPortal. What I'm going to do is I'm going to open this up in the default browser. It's just a better viewing experience that way. So give it a second here while it opens it up in Chrome.
And notice it ran 13 separate programs in less than a minute, 59 seconds, something.
Yeah, but again, I did pick really quick tools.
Yeah.
So here we do have the report. It's just HTML, so if you want to, you can modify it. At the top left, we have the TechWaru logo. You can custom brand this with your own logo, and I'll show you how to do that when we get to TechPortal. You can also custom brand TechWaru itself, so I'll show you how to do that. At the top, we have the information that we entered in the beginning, as well as the technician that is running this, so me, the date it was run, how many tools were run, and how long it took. We give you a couple of boxes at the top in every single report. So the first here is the operating system. So you can see all kinds of stuff there, hardware information, such as you know, what kind of video card we have. In this case, I'm running VirtualBox, so it just shows VirtualBox graphics adapter. I've got network info here, some alerts. And then below that, we have a listing for each of the tools we ran and results for it. And to answer one of your questions from before, it does show the start and end time of that tool. So here we ran eRunt backup registry, and it'll tell you where it backed it up to. I ran DevMan view, so you can see all the different devices here. They're all pretty generic since it's VirtualBox. This table actually is pretty large. You can see all kinds of information here. So let me scroll back up to the top. So you can see there's all kinds of you know, useful things in here. Manufacturer. This can help you if you're trying to find out like what a device actually is, and you want to find the proper driver for it. That can be kind of frustrating if you're not sure. So that can help with that. We go down here. We have get product keys. So this gives me the product keys for the computer. In this case, I only have Windows 7. I don't really have any other applications installed. List installed apps will tell you every application installed on the computer, what version it is, and in some cases, the vendor's URL. What in startup will tell you what runs when the computer boots up, and you can even see all kinds of things like what command line parameters it's using, if it's enabled or not, the product name, version, company that makes it. Win crash report. If you had any applications that crashed and it went into the event log or anything like that, you'll see those here in this table. In this case, I didn't have any, so that's why it says if nothing is found, the results will be missing. Battery info view. So here's some information about my laptop's battery. And blue screen view will do the same thing. If you've had any blue screens, it'll show those mini dumps here in a table. I haven't had any recently, so it shows none. Disk Smart view. So if you want to get information about your computer's hard drive, you can get it here. All kinds of useful information to determine if it's healthy or not. Clear proxy settings. So, you know, if you've, I'm sure Ken can speak to this, if you've had malware on your machine, a lot of times you like to modify the proxy settings. So this just resets that stuff. And I like to run this at the beginning of my queue runs, just so that if there are any issues with the internet connection, I can more likely download applications that I need to run on the computer. So I usually run it near the beginning. Hijack This. I'm sure you're all familiar with Hijack This. It's a relatively old tool made by Trend Micro. I think before it wasn't actually made by Trend Micro. I think they acquired it.
Yeah, they bought it.
But yeah, so this is the generic log that it usually spits out. So it just prints it out here for you. And Ken, do you want to go over the Registry Investigator?
Yeah. Start off by just talking a little bit about where it came from in the first place. So all of you have been through the workshop, and hopefully you've all been using the tool called regstep.bat or regstepwin7.bat. And as you know, that will take you to each one of those registry keys we identified in the workshop as being possible hiding place for malware or a place for it to start up. And using those tools, it's a big time saver rather than having to keep track of all those different places to look. It takes you directly to them. But the reality is that in most cases, it's taking you to a key, you look and say, yeah, that one looks right, and goes on to the next one. And it's still a big improvement over doing it just from memory or manually going to each one, but it takes average 10 or 15 minutes to go through that process. And in a lot of cases, I'd say, and I don't have an exact number, but time-wise, about 90% of the cases, what you're going to find is the way it should be. And so when Ian first approached me about developing a tool to put into their TechUSB, I kind of told him, well, we've got this batch file that does this stuff. It's kind of kludgy and not real fun to use, and there's the downsides of it, but a lot of it could be automated. And so that's what we came up with. I told him for each one of these keys, and right now we're looking at over 200 registry keys. I think it's 207 or 208 or something like that. And for each one of those, I just built a big spreadsheet and said, here's the key, and here's what should be in there, and here's what to do if it's something else. And also broke that down by operating system, and from XP through Vista, Windows 7, Windows 8. And there's some of it that can't be automated. Like the run keys, there's no real way of knowing what's legitimate and what's malware. Same thing with the keys that relate to the group policies. And that's going to still have to be looked at manually. But things like the shell open command entry for exe file, com file, bat file, pif file, all of those, and the Win logon entries, and the common places that malware shows up, it's real easy to say, here's what should be in there, and if it's not, then change it to that value. And so overall, and here again, I don't have exact numbers, but the intent was to take that 10 or 15 minutes that you'd be doing in RegStep or RegStep Win 7 and knock it down to just a few minutes by just having a look at the run keys, the group policies, and possibly the image file execution options. That's not commonly used, and so may not have to do anything in that one. But anyway, bottom line is it'll be a whole lot faster, more efficient, and more automatic for you. So what you're looking at here, and Ian is kind of scrolling around through it, but I've broken that down into different categories. Ian, if you'll go back up to the top of that report, please. Notice it starts off with file associations. And as you can see from the actual keys there, it's the HKey classes root, the exe file, the bat file, com file, pif file, reg file, and all those. And in most cases, they should be that string of special characters, the quote %1, quote space, %, with some variations on some of them. And that action taken basically says that was right, so it didn't have to do anything with it. Or in some cases, if it was wrong, it'll say fixed it, and there's another column, I believe. Ian, can you scroll over? And I don't really remember the format of whether you've got more columns or just okay. So on the run keys,
that's all the columns, but okay, it goes down.
All right. So the run keys, and there's a little bit of cleanup that I think we want to talk about on here, because a lot of them, like the run services, are showing as empty and deleted, and probably a better word to put in there was not found or non-existent or something, because that one shouldn't be there, and same with run services once. And so we may want to work on tweaking some of those, the descriptions that show up in there for the value found and action. But point is, it's showing you what was in the run keys. And so if you see something you know is malicious, then you could just manually go back into regedit in that particular run key and delete it. Or if it's in a real run key, you could actually use msconfig. But anyway, same stuff we talked about in the workshop. This is mainly just calling your attention to it, letting you know what was in there. And notice that for most of those under the big ones, local machine, software, Microsoft Windows current version, run, it just shows what was in there and says reported. And so the ones that shouldn't have been there in the first place, if they were there, it would delete them, like the run services once, run once EX, stuff like that. So generally speaking, that's how it works. Now, one thing that I touched on a minute ago, and we're still kind of in an undecided position on, I did lay out the differences for the different operating systems, and what they have right now, they have not allowed for XP. So this is, I'm not sure whether it's Vista and later or Windows 7 and later. Ian, do you know offhand whether it's generally?
It's Vista and later.
Okay, Vista and
I
later.
think it wasn't that we didn't want to support XP. It was more that I think there was too much variability, and it was very difficult for us to get the tool out while supporting all, I guess, 4 of them. So at some point it may support XP, but I think it'll have to be based on demand, because I think only 5% of the people using the software are running it on XP. So if people request it, then we'll be happy to put it in.
Okay. In the meantime, for right now, this is for Vista and later, and if you have an XP, not if, when, because a lot of us are still supporting XP machines, you can still use the old reg step, and it'll work the same as it always has. One question that actually came up in the workshop I did this week is, am I maintaining reg step Win 7? And the answer is no. There have actually been a few registry keys added to the workshop in the last 6 months or so that reg step Win 7 does not take you to. And assuming that Registry Investigator that you're seeing here is pretty much a replacement for regstep win7.bat, I don't really see any point in maintaining that batch file. But kind of like Ian, if there's a particular need that there's no other way to address, then sure, I'll take a look at it and try to do anything I can to make your life easier. So I think that pretty well covers what I wanted them to see about Registry Investigator and generally how it works. But again, there are over 200 keys that it's looking at, and so going through the whole report can take a little while, and there's really no point in going into much more detail. Plus the fact, as I say, there's a little bit of tweaking to be done, but as it stands right now, it should be fully usable. I don't see anything that would do any harm. The only issues that I see are more cosmetic or little niceties that there's still some room for tweaking on. So Ian, anything else that you think we need to talk about in there?
Well, I do see some good questions here and comments about it, and I just wanted to address those. Eric said it would be helpful to show what the default items are in there and highlight in color the malicious info, and I think that that's a really good idea. The default stuff is really easy to, well, it depends. I mean, it's doable is all I'm saying. So what I'm going to do is take that down, and we will talk about it as a team and see if we can get that in there, because that's a great idea. Another comment was, is there a way to summarize just the deletions or reported keys? Not currently, there isn't, but I think that we could add a section maybe at the top that just says reported keys and deleted keys, and then you could see more details below. So I've got that down as well. But I think that is most of the comments regarding this.
Yeah, and I'll just
jump in. If you guys have
in
any other comments?
Yeah,
then
just
that would
one more comment here is the fact that all of you that have been through my workshop know how interested I am in getting your feedback and keeping things up to date. Everything I've seen of Ian and RepairTech indicates they're the same way. So, and on this particular issue, why don't you, if you have suggestions like this, go ahead and send them to me, and I'll kind of summarize them and add my own comments, and in turn pass those along to Ian, and so and his development team. So
yeah, that would be very helpful.
That workable approach for you, Ian?
Yeah, that's great. Chris also had a question. He said he's a little confused. For those that show as reported, do we go and manually fix them? Yeah, so for the ones that are reported, that's basically for you. Those are judgment calls. So those are things that you can look at and determine if they're actually malicious or not, and then if they are, you're going to want to go and modify them. But they're things that we basically cannot automate.
Yeah, and there again, that basically falls into two main categories, the run keys and the policy keys, because there's no way to know what really is. I mean, there are a few we could say, yeah, that's probably malicious, like disable registry editing tools. But there again, that could be legitimate. It could be a policy that and obviously makes a lot of sense for users not be able to run regedit. So it pretty much requires manual investigation and determination of what's normal and what should be in there. But percentage-wise, that's a small part of the amount of time you're normally spending going through all these keys.
Right. So I guess unless you guys have other things, we can move on here. If you do have other questions or suggestions regarding the Registry Investigator, Ken's suggestion is would be very helpful. If you could contact him and let him know what you'd like to see changed, he can give me a summary of it, and then I can bring it to the team, and we can get those things done.
One more thought, and I don't mean to keep doing sidetracks here, but one thing that's impressed me about RepairTech in general is they have a schedule for updates, and it just from what I'm seeing from a distance, it looks like it's built like a big company in terms of audit trails and testing and just doing things the right way, and that's a welcome change from what we frequently see in the software development environment. So they normally come out with a new release.
We're not perfect, but we do our best. We do try to release a new version of TechWaru in particular twice a month. So we actually now have a public dev queue, so you can go and see what we're working on. I can post the link to that later, but there is a Trello board, if you guys are familiar with Trello, where you can go and see what we're working on at any given time. Ken, did you want to add anything else before I move on?
No, that's it.
Okay, cool. If you guys have any questions, I do see there are a fair amount of questions here. Is there an option to run TechWaru without working internet connection? Yes. So you can run TechWaru without an internet connection. The only problem with doing so is that you can't download the applications. So if you've run it on a client's computer before and it's already downloaded the applications, it keeps them there. So you won't have to download them again. And if you use it without an internet connection, you'll be fine. I will also show you another way around that when we get to the options page, which is here just in a second. Okay, so let's see here. The last thing we ran was empty recycle bin. You saw all I did was I deleted a shortcut, so it just tells you how much it removed here. So this is a good example of a TechWaru report. There's a couple little nifty things about it. If you don't want to see, for example, one of the sections, you can collapse that portlet using this arrow icon. If you only want to see certain categories, you can select them here, and it'll only show those. And they're also fully responsive. So if you want to view this on a tablet, it will resize itself to look like this, or on a mobile phone or something like that, it'll look fine. So that is a standard report. When we get to Tech Portal, I'll show you that has uploaded to my account, and you can see it there. Let's move on here from the Tools page. Here we have system information, and this is the same exact information you saw in the report in those top boxes. It's just accessible to you at any given time. We also have a data migration tool in here, so if you ever have a client that comes into your shop, and let's say they bought a new laptop and they want to move it over, move their user profile over to the new one, or they want to migrate some of their files, you can use this tool to really easily do that. So I can give you a little taste of what that looks like. I don't want to actually run it here because it's going to take forever. But basically you select the partition you want to back up, the user profiles that you want to move over, any wildcards you want. So if you want to pull all the QuickBook files or access files or something, you can add your own wildcards. You can specify additional folders from the root of the hard drive, and there's some additional settings here. And if you're backing up, then it's going to back up to a file. If you're actually doing a direct migration, then you just would select the destination drive and the destination user profiles. They can even make new user profiles for you. So this is a really nifty tool. Again, I don't want to run it now because we're in a demo and it would take forever. But lastly, we have the options page here. Like Ken mentioned, we like to release at least 2 versions a month. That's our goal. And we get all of our features from customers that send requests in, just like the ones you guys made. So if you have any tools that we're not already automating that you think are really great, or you find a bug somewhere, or anything in general, feel free to get in touch, and we will be happy to put things on the dev queue if they fit into what most of our customers want. Here you can view the release notes. You can click this and it'll open up in Notepad. Got a question here. Yeah, date in the file names. Oh, changing the format. You're right. Yes, I agree with you. I will. I'll take that down.
Oh, these
That
foreigners.
is the best file format. Or sorry, date format. Moving on here, we have the config file. So all of the things I've showed you so far, your presets, your settings that you're going to see in this options pane that I'm showing you now, and all of your custom apps, which I'll get to in a second, they're all stored in this techwaru.ini file. And I haven't showed you guys this yet, but one of you asked if TechWaru can be used in a remote session. And the answer is yes. It's a completely portable application, and I can show you here. I have it. It's just this exe file, techwaru.exe here. And what it does is when you run it, it unpacks an assets folder from the executable. And within that assets folder, and it'll always unpack that in the same directory as TechWaru. So you can run it from a USB drive, you can run it from any folder on a hard drive, whatever you want. And within that assets folder, you'll see that there are all of the tools that you've been running, all of your configuration stuff, all of your reports are stored in here. So that is, and then all of your random things like your account email and stuff like that, which is used for authentication. So because that stuff gets unpacked and is completely portable, once you have it there, you can copy and paste that assets folder and that exe to anywhere you want. You can use it within a remote session, and it's just going to unpack the stuff. And as long as they have an internet connection, and of course they have to because you're doing a remote session, then you can get all the applications you need, and you don't have to install anything. So anyway, that config file is stored in, that config stuff is stored in techwaru.ini. You can import and export that stuff to TechPortal. The use case for that is, let's say you want to have the same custom apps, the same configurations, the same presets across all of your different drives. You can export that stuff to TechPortal and then import it on all your other drives, and bam, you have everything you need. That is very easy to do. You can even change those settings on TechPortal, which is really cool, and I'll get into that. If you're using TechWaru within a remote session, you may want to set a startup password in case you're leaving TechWaru on that client's computer for future use. So that will just allow you to have a password on there. That way the client can't tamper with powerful stuff like combo fix. Configurable settings here. So auto resume run is a nifty feature if a tool decides it wants to restart the computer. So for example, at the end of some malware scan, it might want to restart the computer for you. Auto resume run will make it so that when the computer boots back up, TechWaru will start up by itself and pick up from the tool it left off on, which can be very helpful. You can also have it reboot or auto-close TechWaru on completion. So this can restart the computer, and this will shut TechWaru down. You can also upload an executable to TechPortal and have TechWaru run it automatically when it starts up. If you are in a remote session and maybe you don't want to leave TechWaru on the client's computer, you can have it auto-delete itself when it closes. And I mentioned to you that TechWaru created a restore point at the beginning of a queue run, and that can be disabled here. For some reason, you don't want to do that. Okay, moving on here. Reports. If you need to change this information and you're already using TechWaru, you can do so here. Branding. So like I mentioned, TechWaru itself, so this logo here and this title bar can be custom branded with your own logo and text. You can do that from TechPortal. But additionally, you can also custom brand the client's operating system in the same way that HP or Dell might want to put their logo in the start menu or the startup screen. You can configure TechWaru to do that here. And once you do so, you can go into Tools, and I believe it's in System Tweaks. You can add Brand OS to the queue. Presets. So here we have a bunch of different presets that we've made. Your own will be added here. If you want to set one as default, so TechWaru has that in its queue when it starts up, you can do so. You can also delete them here. Custom apps. So as you can see, we have tons of tools in here. There are many, many hundreds of tools. We don't have everything. We have decided not to include certain things because they're redundant, or for whatever reason, maybe we can't automate them, or we haven't heard of them. So if you want to add your own tools that you've made or tools that you like that we don't have, you can either submit a feature request and ask us to integrate it, or you can add it as a custom application. So you can enter the application name here, and one of the things that is required that is somewhat unusual, I guess, but it's required for the way TechWaru works, is you have to enter a download URL so that TechWaru knows where to find that application. And that URL has to end in a file extension. So, for example, it has to end in .exe or .zip or .bat or .cmd. And the reason for that is that TechWaru needs to know what kind of file it is. So if you can't find a direct download URL for that application, one trick you can do is upload that executable to Dropbox or Google Drive, and that'll give you a direct URL to it. Once you do that, on the next screen you'll be able to select the command line parameters and where the logs get put and which operating systems it works on and what category it is, and then it'll show up like any other tool in your tool list. We got a question here. When used remotely, how large are the files that need to be transferred? TechWaru itself is only like 32 megabytes. So that's really it. The assets folder, you don't have to bring into the remote session. It can unpack it for you afterwards. And that file is as large as really the number of applications that you choose to download and run. So initially it's very small because it doesn't have any applications in it. But as you use TechWaru, it downloads those applications, and that folder gets bigger. So I'd say, I mean, if I had to give you one answer, it'd be like 32 megabytes. Does that answer your question? Cool. Are there licensing issues for some of the applications you've included? So all of the applications we've included are either tools we made, or they're open source tools, or they're third-party tools that other people made. You don't get a license by purchasing our software, so none of these are the pro version. Most of them you can use. I mean, there's no issue with you running ComboFix, for example, or McAfee Stinger. But for things like Hitman Pro, what it's going to download here is the trial version, and you can sign in this application. When you run it, you can still remove things. You just have to check like trial, and it'll install a trial on that computer. But if you want to run the pro version, which can be very advantageous, so for example with Malwarebytes, you probably want to buy a pro license and then add it as a custom app rather than running it through here, because this asterisk here denotes that it requires some kind of user interaction. So you'll see that most of the tools, for example, in this malware removal section are fully automated. But the ones that have an asterisk, we for some reason cannot fully automate. They're in all of them. Every tool in TechWaru is at least semi-automated in the sense that it'll download it for you, install it, and run it. But in Malwarebytes' case, their end-user license agreement does not allow us to automate it with the free version. So if you have a pro version, I would recommend adding it as a custom app, and then you can have it be fully automated. Does that answer that question for you, Michael? Cool. There's another question. I run Malwarebytes. Do you automatically uncheck the trial version checkbox during install? No. So for Malwarebytes, it's going to run the free. It's going to run the free version, if that makes sense. If you want to run the pro version, then you're going to need to add it as a custom app. We recently removed Roadkiller because it kept detecting TechWaru as malware for some reason, and they were very unresponsive about adding it to the whitelist. MCSoft is another question. MCSoft is already on the dev queue, so that'll be added soon. Okay, I'm going to try to get through all this because we got to move on here and get over to TechUSB. So with TechUSB, this is kind of funny. I'm running a VirtualBox to show you guys TechWaru, and I'm running VirtualBox within VirtualBox to show you TechUSB. TechUSB is, like I said, a bootable computer repair operating system, and because of that, it's very difficult to demo within Windows. So what I usually do is I put it in VirtualBox here, and I'm able to demo it to you from there. So obviously, if you were booted into this, it would be a full-fledged operating system. And why is it in? I need to switch to like scale mode. There we go. So if you're booted into this, this would be full screen. As you can tell, it is a full-fledged desktop. It's got everything from a web browser to a file manager to you know, a terminal. You can edit partitions. You can use rsync to recover data if you want. Check the smart status of hard drives. The main thing that we added here, though, is called TechUSB Automator. And for some reason, the authenticator is going slow, and I think it's because it's in VirtualBox. Usually I don't do it this way. For now, what I'll do is I will show you. It'll be easier to do it like this. Here. I can show you what it looks like via the website until this decides it wants to play nice. So with TechUSB, basically you boot into it, and let me see if I can zoom in here. No, that's a little too much. There we go. So when you open up the automator, I mean, which is right here, you get a screen that looks like this. And basically what it allows you to do is it runs exactly the same as TechWaru in the sense that you enter a ticket number and a customer name, and then it has a list of different tools that you can run. You just simply check them and you click run. I'm going to go through each of these tools here, and I will show you how I normally use them, and then we can see what it looks like when it's running, and we can see a report. So the first tool here is the memory tool. And the memory tool can run between 1 and 17 tests, and the default is 9. Now, these are very comprehensive tests. The first 5 are very quick, and then they get progressively more intensive. I would not recommend running all 17 because that can take like 2 days, depending on how much memory you have. Let's see, we got another question here. Yeah, I'll get to that in 1 second. The default is 9. I usually bump it down to 7. Reason being, if they actually have bad memory in their computer, chances are you can't even boot it. And if you can boot it, and get into TechUSB, you'll probably find out pretty quick that you have bad memory after 7 tests. So in general, I like to save time while being conservative about testing. I usually bump down to 7. The next 2 tools here we have are the SMART and the block tests. And those are meant to work together to determine if you have bad hard drives connected to the computer. The first one will check the overall health status of the hard drive, and that is pretty instantaneous. If that passes, then it will run a SMART short test, which takes approximately 2 minutes. And if that passes as well, then it will move on to the block test. The block test will go through every single block of the hard drive and attempt to determine if it's healthy or not. You can configure that to stop at a certain number of bad blocks. The default is 4. I usually, again, bump that down to 1. And the reason for that is if I have a customer that comes into a shop and they have a single bad block on their hard drive, I'm still not going to want to give it back to them. I'm going to tell them you need a new hard drive and attempt to recover data. So personally, I would prefer to save my own time in order to get things done quicker. Assuming that their hard drive is okay, you can go ahead and run the File System Health Check and Repair tool. And what this will do is it'll go through every single hard drive on their system, find out what type of file system it has on it. So it works on all common file systems, Mac, Windows, Linux, so FAT, FAT32, HFS+, ext2, 3, and 4, and NTFS. For all of them except for Windows, so NTFS, what it will do is it will actually check and repair the file system within this Automator application. For Windows, so NTFS, it will schedule a check disk with the fix flag for the next reboot. And so when you reboot the computer after using TechUSB, it's going to run a check disk. The next two tools we have here are malware removal scanners, ClamAV and AVG. As you saw in TechWaru, there are a lot more scanners, and ideally you're going to run those malware removal scanners first as a priority. They're going to be more effective, whether you run them in safe mode with networking or within Windows. That's what you're going to want to do. But if for some reason you can't get into Windows at all, as an emergency, you can run ClamAV and AVG in order to remove the malware. So that is the Automator application setup itself, and then what you can do when you're done with that is you can click Run TechUSB. And when you do that, it's going to, very similarly to TechWaru, it's going to actually go ahead and run those things, and we can see what it will look like here. So this is it running the file system repair tool, and it's telling us what it's doing. And then at the end, we're going to get a report. It looks pretty much identical to TechWaru. On the left-hand side, we have success or failed. So AVG found 2 infections. It gives us some system information. And then at the bottom below all this stuff, you'll get a result for each of the tools that we ran. Good question. So we have a question here. Can you configure CLAM or AVG to scan and report but not remove anything? So the way that the scanning in TechUSB works is slightly different from the way it works in TechWaru. Because we can control the process a lot better, basically what we do is we scan for and report all of the different malware that's found. And then at the end, when it's done running all of the tools, if it found malware, it'll give you a table with a listing for every single one, and you can choose what to remove. Okay. We have another question here from Eric. Would be really great to have those other malware tools integrated into TechUSB. So I agree with you, and I wish we could. One of the things about TechUSB is it's based on Debian Knoppix, which is a Linux distribution, and because of that, we can't run a lot of the Windows scanners that you're used to. However, one opportunity that we're looking into is being able to boot into a PE and run TechWaru from the PE. So we know that works already, and the issue is it's difficult for people to make a PE. And it's also difficult for us to test our software if we don't know what PE people are using. So we're working with Microsoft right now to figure out if we can distribute a PE for you guys that we've ready-made for you to work with TechWaru. And that way you could run all of those applications that you love to run, and we could have a testing environment that is actually effective. How do you support UEFI is another question. So UEFI is very tricky. For TechUSB in particular, I guess the answer is we basically don't. What you have to do to run TechUSB on most UEFI systems is turn on legacy boot and turn off secure boot. So if you change those two things in the UEFI settings, then you should be able to boot into TechUSB just fine. But it doesn't work straight away with UEFI. So you can still run it on Windows 8 and 8.1 computers, but you kind of have to do a little workaround. Yeah, exactly. So I mean, we're basically working on working on a way to distribute the PE for you guys. So that's a general idea of TechUSB. I will show you Tech Portal now, and then I'll get to all the questions that I wasn't able to get to. So let me just unzoom this, and we will go to Tech Portal here. So here on Tech Portal, I've logged in. This is my demo account. I'll show you the dashboard real quick. This is the front page of Tech Portal. Here you can see there's a couple cool things I want to highlight about the dashboard. The first is this on the bench feature here. So on the bench will tell you what's going on in your shop at any given time on all of the instances of TechWaru and TechUSB. So it knows I have TechWaru open here, and because I'm on the tools page, it says I'm building a tool queue. If I was to go in here and let's run something that's not fully automated. Maybe like maybe we'll run Patch My PC. So I will, or actually, I don't know, that takes too long to speed up. Let's run Crystal Disk Info. So I'm going to click Start here, and when it's done creating a system restore point, it'll run Crystal Disk Info, and then I'll go ahead and refresh Tech Portal. So we'll just give it a second. And while it's doing that, I guess I can explain some other stuff, or you know what, it's done. So I'm going to refresh here. And there you can see it says it's running Crystal Disk Info less than a minute ago. So if you had 10 computers on your bench, that's a really cool way to just see what's going on in your shop from a high level. Below that we have Tech Search, which is a search engine we made to enable you to really quickly find computer repair related issues. So if I was to search for, let's say, this ASUS motherboard, I could go to parts vendors and really quickly find someone to sell it to me. I could also find drivers for it very quickly by clicking that tab. Or if I wanted to find out about a process or malware or something like Stuxnet or Flame or something like that, I can go to Viruses and Processes and really quickly see that here. So obviously you're technicians, you're very good at Google searching by nature. This is just a very targeted way of doing it. Below that we have Tech News. So we basically bring you news from around the web, from some of our partners, from news sources like Podnuts. I actually was on this podcast here with Jeff Halash. So we bring you random stuff like this to just keep you up to date on the industry. On the next page here we have downloads. So at the top of the downloads page here, you're going to see a table, and it gives you all of your tech's accounts. So you create a technician account that gives them their own login to Tech Portal and their own key that they can use for the software. So that's how you know who's working on what. They enter their own key and email. The difference is this is an admin account. So an admin account can see all of the technicians and all of their keys, but each of the techs can only see their own. They also can't change any of your settings, so they can't change your integrations or view your billing or change other technicians' settings or your custom branding. So they'll need this information. Below, we have two main downloads here. The first is TechWaru, so this is to download just that main executable, that techwaru.exe. And the second is the TechSuite Creator. The TechSuite Creator application is a nifty tool that we made to help you really easily create TechUSB drives. So I'll show you what that looks like. Let's go here real quick, and we can run TechSuite Setup, which is that application that we were just looking at. And just give it a second here. VirtualBox is being real slow. All right. So here you can see that TechSuite Creator just allows you to select the USB drive. You click Next, and then what it's going to do is it's going to download the files for you and put them on the USB drive after wiping it, and then you'll have a bootable utility right there. You can make as many of those as you want and have them around your shop. So that is that's TechWaru and TechUSB. we can go look at the reports here. And this is a page that shows you all the reports you've uploaded. So you can see that this is the one we uploaded 27 minutes ago. I can go ahead and view it here, and it'll be the same report that we just looked at. And that way, we have it for our records. We can print it out, give it to our clients to show them we actually did something on their computer. Yeah, basically a proof that you did something. And if they say, hey, my hard drive failed and you checked it 2 weeks ago and you said it was fine, you can show them this report and you can say, well, it was fine. I did check it. Here's a record of it. Next, we have this drop-down, this tools drop-down. You can configure those TechWaru settings that we looked at before, all from TechPortal. So you can change the various settings there. You can also change your presets, and you can sync them with the other technicians on your account. You can also share your custom apps and distribute those to different technicians. So this is a really easy way to do that. We have some integrations which you guys were interested in. So if you're using a popular CRM like a Helpdesk or Repair Shop or Commit CRM or Autotask, you can really easily integrate the TechSuite reports with those. So for example, let's say you're using RepairShopper. It's one of my favorites. You enter your subdomain and RepairTech API key here, and then let's say you have a customer that comes in and they have ticket number 123. If you are in TechWaru and you go in here and you can change this report work order number to 123, when that report gets uploaded to TechPortal, it will automatically get synced over to ticket number 123 on RepairShopper, and you'll be able to see that report in that ticket. So that's a pretty cool integration we've got. It works the same way for these other four. Additionally, we have this Webbook integration, and that basically allows you to host the report information to any URL. So you can use that in conjunction with Zapier or If This Then That in order to integrate with like 300 or more different things like Google Drive or Dropbox, or you can have it send you a text message or post to Twitter with your report information, or you can have it call you on the phone and talk in a robot voice, whatever you want to do. We've also engineered TechWaru to work really well within Screen Connect's Toolbox feature, but realistically it will work within any remote session solution that you have. We have an iPhone app that's out already. It basically is a replication of the features on TechPortal, but we also have an Android app coming out soon. You don't really need those because TechPortal is completely responsive and you can use it like this from your phone. Okay, so lastly, one of the things I want to go over is custom branding. So I'm going to show you how to custom brand the applications. You can upload your own logo. I have a really horrible looking logo that I made in 20 seconds, and you'll have to excuse my lack of design skills here. So I'm going to upload that. And then you can also custom brand the title bar of TechWaru. So I can change that to My PC Repair Shop there. And we'll click Update. And then we have TechWaru open here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to close it now that we've changed those branding settings. And then I will open it up one more time. And we'll see that it will download our new branding settings for us automatically. And this works across all the different instances you have. It also works with TechUSB. So, and it'll automatically custom brand your reports as well. So we'll see that in a second there. But before, okay, so there you go. You see My PC Repair Shop. There's the really ugly logo I made. And it's changed the title bar here as well. So that is a pretty general overview of TechSuite. The first thing I want to do here is go through all of your questions that I didn't get to, and I'll answer those. But feel free to ask whatever you want now that you've seen pretty much the whole demo. We can just do Q&A. I did want to reiterate something that Ken said, which is that if you have graduated from Ken's workshop, you get $100 credit towards TechSuite. So once you sign up for an account, or if you already have one, just let us know. Send us a message or call us on the phone, and we'll be happy to apply that credit on your account.
And one thing just to emphasize about that, Ian, is that you're not asking for a credit card up front and automatically starting the billing 4 months later. It's just you got that credit applied, and if at the end of 4 months they want to continue and start paying, then they can. But it's a no strings attached offer.
There's a 2-week free trial. There's no credit card required to sign up. It's a full-featured trial, and if you have the credit on your account, then I guess you could look at it as you have a 4.5-month trial. So when that time expires, you'll have had plenty of time to figure out if you want to use the software, and at that point you can choose to enter your credit card or not. But
and
it won't
one
be
other thing,
required until your credit runs out.
Yeah, just to clarify on that, because you're issuing the updates on a regular basis, so generally they should figure on every 2 weeks or twice a month downloading it fresh. Is that kind of how it works?
No, they don't actually have to download a fresh copy. There's actually a built-in update system that they can use. TechUSB will automatically download any updates, so you probably won't even notice if it downloads an update unless you see something that's different. But TechWaru will tell you there's an update, and it'll say, do you want to download the newest update? And then you can do so. Alternatively, you can just download the newest version from TechPortal straight on. So either will work.
Okay, good, thanks.
There's a question here about how it integrates with Screen Connect and Repair Shopper. So, I mean, I guess the answer is it works really well within Screen Connect's Toolbox feature, especially if you can put the assets folder in there as well, because then you don't have to authenticate the application, and it has all your settings. And with Repair Shopper, I mean, that's one of my favorite integrations there. It works pretty flawlessly, and we have a bunch of people who came from Repair Shopper that they referred to us, and a lot of people like that feature. So they integrate really well. Can the tool be safely run on a server? Our testing process currently does not include the server versions of Windows. We test on XP up to 8.1. We're going to be adding 10 in as well shortly, but we don't officially test on the server operating systems. That being said, I've run it on them before. I mean, it works, but I can't say that it is part of our testing process. It very well may work perfectly fine. I don't really see any reason why it would be any different, but that, I guess, is the most transparent answer to your question I can give you.
Well, the other consideration is that there are some of the tools that will not run on a server version.
Yeah, so there are tools that are included that those I can't speak to whether they'd run on a server version or not, but TechWaru itself should run perfectly fine on Windows Server. I just can't speak to it with 100% confidence because we don't test on it. Yes, it can be deployed remotely. We went over that. Does it automatically update? We just answered that as well. This is a good point. I'm going to leave that there. Right. In addition to branding, can you drop a web shortcut to the desktop? It's funny how many times we've gotten that request. It seems like a very random feature. I'm probably going to have to look into that. Let me ask you a question. This question is for Chris, I guess. What would you want to drop on their desktop in terms of a web shortcut? I'm just curious. Is it like a link to your website, or is it something else? Gotcha. Okay. Cool. Yeah, we can certainly do that. I will take that down and I'll put it on the dev queue. It's a very easy thing to do. Cool. Yeah, I'm glad it looks so different. I can tell you with certainty that it is vastly improved from when we were in beta. Can you change the splash screen on startup with your logo? I don't. Yes. Well, if you are referring to the splash screen when TechWire starts up, as you can see here, it actually automatically does that. Is that the screen you were referring to? I believe the reason it wasn't, yeah, okay. So yeah, it automatically does that. The reason it wasn't like that before was because it hadn't downloaded the custom branding until after that step. Pricing, good question. So the pricing is pretty straightforward. You can find it here on our website. Basically, the way it works is it's $25 per month for each technician. So you need one license for each of the technicians that's going to be using the software, and they get their own login and everything, and their ability to log in to Tech Portal and use the iPhone app and upload reports and all kinds of stuff. And yeah, so it's pretty straightforward. It's just $25 per month per tech, and if you have more than 10 technicians, then there is, I guess we call it franchise pricing. So if you are in that boat, feel free to shoot me an email, and I'll put my email in the chat here, just in case you guys think of any questions afterwards. All right. Let's see here. Okay, I think we got to everything. Do you guys have any additional questions for myself or for Ken? And again, if you do think of anything afterwards, feel free to shoot me an email. Of course, you all have Ken's email. Yeah, I guess I can unmute your mic for a second, Ike, if you want to ask a question. I typically like to keep people's mics muted just because there's feedback and it's very difficult to go through the technical stuff there. So if it's not a complicated question, it'd be better if you could type it up in text. I've got a question from Michael here. Do we get 2 months credit if we have 2 techs signed up? Well, you guys actually. Oh yeah. I see what you're getting at. Yeah, it's $100 credit basically. So however you want to use that credit is up to you, but it's $100 credit. Well, the Registry Investigator actually comes with TechWaru, so you get it just by default when you have TechWaru. I don't believe we have it as a separate. The source code is actually built into TechWaru, so it doesn't function as a independent application. Yeah, good question. How do you get credit? So once you sign up for an account, or if you already have one, just feel free to contact anyone on our team. So you can use the support thing on Tech Portal to just type in a thing that says, "Hey, I graduated from Ken's virus remediation training, and we'll be happy to apply the credit for you." Or you can call us on the phone. Basically, any method of contacting us, and we'll be happy to apply it. Yeah, you can add a tech whenever you want. I can show you here. Oh, wrong button. I can show you here. When you want to add a tech, you just go to Technicians here, and you can see on my account I have 3 techs, and you can just add or edit techs, and you can just add one here. It's very straightforward. You can add or remove them whenever you want. Okay. Let's see here. Yeah, I mean the licensing is pretty straightforward. You just need to have one license for every technician that's going to use the software. We're not going to sit around and police people. It's not our thing. But we basically just have a policy where if you have 5 techs, then you should have 5 licenses, and you can have each of your technicians use the software as much as they want, though. So there's no limitations on how many computers they run it on or anything. No, I realize it was just a joke, but it is something people get confused about. So just wanted to clarify. Can we add a tech? When we add a tech, do they get credentials sent to their email? Basically, the way it works is when you add a tech, it sends them an invite, and then they can log in and set up their account.
Got a lot of good Q&A going on here.
Yeah. Yeah. Usually we have about a fourth as many people in the webinars, so this is a good amount of questions. I'm not used to this, but this is good. I enjoy it.
And I think you're giving all the right answers, too.
Cool. Yeah. Well, if you want to sign up for an account, Kyle, and you have any feature requests or anything, feel free to let us know, and we'll be happy to add stuff for you. One of the things that I've been trying to do is get people to send us their checklists. So if you want to take a picture of your checklist and just show it to us, that way we can, that's basically like a very large feature request, and we can go and see, okay, what in this checklist do we not already automate, and we can try to get it done. So if any of you want to do that, you're welcome to. We've got a question from Eric. I just want to be able to boot off USB stick and leave and have the system done when I return. How far off are we from that? No, it's kind of a loaded question, I guess. TechUSB is fully automated. So I guess in that sense, you can have your hardware diagnostics fully done. TechWaru also, most of the tools are fully automated. But I think no matter what, when you have a client that comes in, you're probably going to have to do a little stuff here and there that's not normal. So I would say for the most part, our goal is to make it so you can just click start, walk away, have a cup of coffee, and come back to a working computer that's completely done and hand it back to your client with a report. I think in some circumstances, I don't have an exact number here, but if I had to guess, I don't know, 40% of them, you can do that already with TechSuite. But there are just, there are cases where you have to replace a hard drive or, whatever, or there's some particular issue like you need to remove a particular application or something like that. So I would say that's kind of the dream, is to be able to automate the entire thing. But I don't necessarily know if that's actually realistic. I think the more realistic thing is to say we're going to automate as much as we possibly can. Regarding pricing in comparison to D7, I mean, I can't say that I know exactly how much D7 costs at this point. He changes his pricing a lot. the story behind D7, I guess you could compare D7 to TechWaru. The story behind it is we actually partnered with the guy who made D7. His name's Nick Shaw, and we partnered with him in the summer of 2012, and we got, at that point we just had TechUSB and Tech Portal, and we wanted to make a Windows application, and we found out about Nick, and we decided that we were going to get in touch with him, and we liked him and ended up licensing his source code from him. So the foundation of TechWaru originally was his source code. However, very quickly we modified more than 95% of the source code, and now I don't know how much of his code is actually left in there. It's very little. We basically redid the entire user interface right away because we didn't think it was very intuitive. We placed a heavy emphasis on basically making it the opposite of what D7 is. We wanted it to be, D7 is very configurable, and a lot of people really like that. But a lot of people also feel that it takes too long to get up and running with it because the learning curve is very steep. So with TechWaru, we wanted to make it basically plug and play. We wanted to make decisions based on what we thought techs wanted by talking to them and making it so you didn't have to configure those things. We would just pick the things for you that everybody said they wanted. And then we wanted to improve the automation and add more tools. And we also wanted to introduce reporting. So the reports that you see there were heavily emphasized. And then the integration with Tech Portal and other CRMs and things like that. So at this point, I mean, the basis of it is similar, but it has been dramatically changed. As far as other than that, I mean, you also get TechUSB and you also get Tech Portal, but we also have a full team here. So while Nick is just one guy, we have a team that actually you can call on the phone, you can submit feature requests to. Things are far more organized. We have things released on a regular basis. We provide training to you at no additional cost. I mean, there's all kinds of things. I mean, it's a more, I would like to think that it's a little bit more of a legit experience. That being said, I think Nick is great. He's a great guy. We really like him, and he has been very fun to work with.
But Registry Investigator doesn't show up in D7.
That's true. And we also have the Registry Investigator. So there's a few things like that that we have that he hasn't developed. It's funny that you mentioned JumpShot here, Eric. I actually talked to the guy who created JumpShot, I want to say like 6 months ago. They got bought by a VAC, and they're in Austin, Texas, and he was a really cool guy. I haven't personally used JumpShot. I know a fair amount about it, and I've watched their like Kickstarter video as it was happening. I think if I had to guess, I would say they probably don't have nearly as many tools as us, and probably aren't made for repair shops. But I can't say that I know a lot about it because it hasn't really, nobody ever brings it up, so I haven't really had a reason to go and look at it. Yeah, sure, Chris. You can sign up for an account by going to RepairTechSolutions.com. You get a free trial there. There's no credit card required or anything. Once you sign up for an account, at some point within that 2-week trial, just shoot one of us an email or call us on the phone and let us know that you graduated from Ken's workshop, and we'll be happy to apply that $100 credit for you to your account.
Okay, well, Ian, I think we've covered a lot of ground and got a lot of questions answered, and don't want to hold anybody longer than necessary. So you want to do a final wrap-up and let everybody
Yeah,
get back
sure.
to something billable?
Yeah, I appreciate you guys attending. Again, feel free to shoot us an email once you sign up for an account, or if you have any questions, I did put my email on the message board there. So feel free to shoot me an email, and I'll respond to it as soon as I see it. And yeah, look forward to talking to you guys in the future. And I appreciate you as well, Ken, stopping by and helping out.
Well, thanks for getting this thing started in the first place, and I'm pleased with the way it's going, and I think you're going to be seeing a lot more of my people.
Cool, cool.
I call them my people only lovingly.
Cool, thanks guys. Appreciate it. Let me know if you have any questions.
Okay, thank you all, and of course you all know how to get hold of me, and I'll be glad to do anything I can to help smooth the way. So thanks for being here.